much, y'all. Thanks for joining us this morning. Welcome. You are at Kansas City Artists Coalition, and I'm Jen Harris. I'm your programs director. I'm really grateful to have co-owner of Maiden Kc, Keith Bradley, here today. Thank you for being with us, Keith. Maiden Kc's mission statement is to cultivate creativity in Kansas City by connecting customers to exceptional local makers, artists, and brands, and provide an unparalleled customer experience with best-in-class service. Maiden Kc also emphasizes the importance of shopping local and promoting community. They span across the state lines and engage the local art community by providing studio space at an affordable rate. So entirely grateful to have them here today. If you could put your hands together and welcome Keith Bradley, everybody.
I don't think we've ever had anybody who is not an employee of ours actually read our mission statement before. So it sounded different coming out of someone else. It was great. So good to be with everybody this morning. I am Keith Bradley, co-owner of Maiden Kansas City, and I'm excited to talk all about Maiden KC and the importance of shopping local, supporting local artists, makers, and designers, and why we do what we do and the great impact that it has in our community. I have some notes to kind of keep me on track, but I like to start out anytime I talk with a group of people that I've never met. How many people have actually shopped at a Maiden KC store before? That's great. Well, I want to talk a little bit about our history, how we got started, and then kind of go from there. But Maiden KC started in 2015 with 15 artists and makers, and those were print artists, jewelry makers, ceramicists, and apparel designers. And we did a pop-up shop called the Maiden KC Pop-Up one weekend in March, way out at 135th and Null. In the Prairie Fire Shopping Center, we had a random connection, and they gave us literally a 300 square foot stairwell to experiment with local art. Now, I'll take a step back. How do we get to those 15 artists and makers in that 300 square foot stairwell? Well, me and my two business partners, we were all in very different sectors than what we were in now. So my background's in nonprofit work and nonprofit management. One of my partners was in accounting, and the other one was in credit card processing. So you didn't hear the word small business or art or makers or local in any of those previous job descriptions. This is all our first business endeavor. And as we were all kind of navigating becoming adults in Kansas City, one of the things that we were doing was just connecting with different people outside of our normal spheres of social circles. And one of those was the artist community. And we found kind of a common theme was, oh, I have this art. Would you help me get it into another boutique or another store? I have this jewelry. And so just as a side hustle, one of my partners started doing that for people and kind of found these different common issues coming up where it was really hard to go door to door and kind of sell something. A lot of people wanted a consignment type relationship, which has pros and cons to that. And we just kind of thought and brainstormed, well, what if we brought all these great folks together and see what happened? Previously to Maiden KC, you could certainly shop local in a variety of different ways, different events around town, different shows, craft fairs, art events. You could even find locally made goods in different stores. Hallmark was one that was kind of starting to push local 2013, 2014 in their stores, and it would be a small little section and kind of say, Kansas City made or Kansas City designed over there. But there was not one place to go, and you really couldn't do it conveniently or regularly. So we wanted to see what would the power of convenience be to shopping local. So we did this pop-up shop, 15 artists, and it was really fun. And we had no metric for success other than that it was fun and people made money and everyone was happy. And at the end of that 3-day weekend, people were like, hey, can we do it again? We're like, okay, well, we just got this little stairwell for this weekend only. Let's see what we can do. A month later, we were able to actually sign a lease on a 300 square foot stairwell and open our first store. Literally, it was no bigger than from the back of this wall to the back of that curtain. And there was a big staircase that went up to a larger shop. So we were just a gateway to a larger shop. And we started, quickly went from 15 artists to about 20 to about 30. People started, talking about us, and it was great. And then by the fall of 2015, we opened our second location up in Briarcliff Village, really, where we thought, hey, if we really want to do this, then let's go out to kind of the suburbs where it is really less convenient to shop local. A lot of those events I was describing earlier happen in the crossroads, central parts of the city. And what we know about living in Kansas City is if you're north of the river, you really don't like to come south of the river. If you're south of 435, you don't like to come north of 435, or heck, even if you're south of 95th Street, you don't like to come down very often. So we were like, how can we bring this exposure to different parts of the metro? We opened literally 2 weeks before the Royals won the World Series, and Kansas City kind of went berserks for an entire, the rest of the year. It was all blue. It was all Kansas City pride in a way that we hadn't really experienced before. And it was all very fun. And again, and then another opportunity came up, and we thought, if we really want to help these artisan makers, whether they're doing prints, whether they're watercolors, whether they're making candles or canning jelly, then we really need to scale. It's really nice if we buy soap from one maker who's making soap in their basement part-time, and we buy soap from them for one store. That's nice. There's a little side hustle. But if we bought soap for 3 stores, then all of a sudden that person's thinking, how can I turn this into a part-time job, or how can I actually maybe quit my full-time job and do this full-time? And so by the spring of 2016, we had 3 locations. And our third was in the heart of Prairie Village in the Corinth Square Shopping Center. And we were working with over 100 artisan makers, purchasing wholesale from them. So we were taking on the risk of selling it. It wasn't a consignment relationship. They got paid from us, whether or not we sold 1 bar of soap or 100 bars of soap. And so they were able to start planning and forecasting and really starting to build a little economy around what they do every day. And so that was super exciting for us. From there, we kind of kept on growing and expanding. One of the things that we noticed in 2016 and 17 around Kansas City was there has always been a lot of things going on in the coffee world, the craft distillery and craft brewery world. And we thought, how can we also participate in that type of creativity and all the art that kind of surrounds that, whether it is the design of bottles or coffee bags or wearing your favorite, liquor or beer brand on your shirt. And so we opened our first Maiden Kc cafe downtown and got into the coffee business, which people are drinking coffee here. Everyone loves coffee. Everyone loves that opportunity to engage with someone over that medium. And it really kind of changed what we did at Maiden Kc. It was super fun because we were allowed to work with so many more companies, so many more artists and makers, so many more businesses with different ways. We really were able to play host to Kansas City in a new way. So one of our goals with that was to introduce Kansas Cityans to places and companies they didn't know about. And so we started rotating the coffee we served to different coffee roasters. We started rotating our beer tap handles, so you would get to know different brewery or different craft distillery around town, and just celebrating all things Kansas City, which was really fun for us. What it also allowed us to do was to kind of slow people down a little bit. Sometimes people like to shop. There's like 2 types of shoppers. There's the grab and go shopper, like, I know this, I buy it every time and I go. But then there's also the type of shopper who, if you slow them down a little bit, they're going to talk more, they're going to engage more. And so we've always thought that it's way more fun to shop with a coffee in your hand or a glass of wine in your hand, especially if those are local, than in your pajamas at home online. And so we continue to evolve from there, incorporating coffee and beer and wine service into what we do. With that, I'll kind of move on to some other things here in a little bit. But from that, I wanted to get us all the way to 2018. So 3 years after we opened our first store, we really had this kind of aha moment where we thought, if we really want to continue to elevate local goods and local shopping, and I'll talk about why that's important in a second, we really need to try to do that in the best shopping district in Kansas City, which is no. The Country Club Plaza. Yeah. It is Kansas City's premier shopping district. It is actually the busiest, most visited tourist destination in the entire state of Missouri is the Country Club Plaza. A lot of people don't realize that. I know it's changed ownership the last several years, changing kind of concepts and restaurants, but our goal was to really get these artists and makers down to the plaza. And so with that, we came up with a concept for our business called the Maiden Kc Marketplace. And this is a large 10,000 square foot store that has a full coffee bar, a full bar, and then artists and makers rent space from us, and they have this really robust shopping experience where people can shop with a cup of coffee in their hand, shop with a glass of wine in their hand, spend 20 minutes to 2 hours in our store and still find something new, and really provides this platform and access to shopping activity, consumer activity that a lot of the folks that we work with never even dreamed of before. It's the Country Club Plaza has some of the highest rents in Kansas City in terms of retail space. But it also, like I mentioned, is the most visited, most traffic. And so we thought if we really want to continue to celebrate these artists, then not only do we need to get them in front of more people, but we also need to get them in front of other people, meaning tourists and people visiting Kansas City, which was really fun because from there, their customer bases expand, their fan base expand, and they saw opportunities that were just amazing that we couldn't even dream of for them. To the point where many of those companies that we work with now, they have their own storefronts. They have hired new employees, and they've really grown how they operate their business as a result of the sales and traffic they get from working with us at Maiden Kc. So that's kind of a little bit of a history of our growth the first couple of years. We started in 2015, and then by 2018, we had this big Maiden Kc Marketplace. And since then, we've added a variety of smaller shops, bigger shops, coffee shops, different concepts all around town, to where we have over 15 different locations today, primarily selling locally made and designed goods on both sides of the state line, way up north, way out south, and everywhere in between, because we really want to make shopping local a habit and make shopping local convenient. So one of the reasons why we do what we do is because we really believe in the local economy, and that a local economy that supports each other is one that's going to be healthy when times are good, when times are bad. There's a lot of benefits from supporting local, and that's what I want to talk about next. A lot of people, when they first think of shopping local, they think of art. They think of things like they go on here at the Kansas City Artists Coalition. They know that if you're buying from a local artist, no one else in the country is also going to have that same thing in their house, and it's really unique. And that's often a gateway into other forms of shopping local. So we work with a variety of companies everywhere from someone who makes leather goods to candles to woodworking. I brought a couple of products to share with you. So I want to kind of share some of those right now, just to show the variety of things we offer in our stores. So obviously, as I mentioned, coffee. Some of my newer favorite folks is a guy named Chris Conway with We Woodworks. He does these really intricate laser cut wood designs where he's cutting one, painting it, doing another layer on top of it. This is a practical thing, a bottle opener, but this is also just a little desktop with lots of detail, lots of different layers. He's a former Hallmark employee and has learned a lot from his time at Hallmark, and then has grown his own business from that. So just a whole different medium that we like to carry in our stores. This is less what we call art, but definitely super important. So these are hats, obviously. I brought a KU one because of the big KU game today. This is a nod to the Kansas City Monarchs, but what's really special about these hats is that they are made by a company called Sandlot Goods, and these hats are made start to finish here in Kansas City. It's the first locally made hat from start to finish that exists in Kansas City in decades. Kansas City used to be a big hub for clothing manufacturing back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. I imagine they made hats back then, but haven't since. And this is what we kind of call a great example of someone who started small with us. And because of working with us, because of their success, they are able to do things they never even dreamed of. So they started making leather goods. When the pandemic came, they pivoted to making masks. And when masks were less needed, they didn't want to lay off all their sewers. So they decided, hey, what a dream of ours has always been to make hats. So how can we keep this team that we hired during some of the most challenging years as a society, and not let them go? So that we shifted to hat manufacturing just down the street on 31st. Kind of continue with sort of the variety of things that we carry. It's Andre's Chocolate, so they have a great shop just south of the plaza. Swiss Heritage, Renee, the head baker, chocolatier, has Swiss heritage going back generations, and so he takes those recipes, those traditions, and makes them into delicious chocolates that we carry in our stores as well. This is Imperfect Design, so kind of simple graphic. we get a lot of artist submissions, and oftentimes they do a take on the Kansas City skyline. It makes sense. It's something you want to have in your home, something maybe you want to take home with you if you're from out of town. And this is one of my favorites because it's just a totally different colorway. It has her own style on the skyline, and kind of meets a different customer, right? So this is not going to look good in every house, but it's going to look good in some houses. Keeping with my eye was all on KU this morning. I didn't go to KU, I swear, but this is just kind of a fun, different style. His name is David Keith. Yep. Yeah. And, what's also fun about what happens here with Maiden KC is, as you said, Kansas City loves itself, and we love to celebrate around things that happen in the city or around the city. And so whenever something happens, like KU winning a national championship, Chiefs going to the Super Bowl, getting the World Cup or whatever, artists try to reflect that in what they do. So I don't know much about this particular artist, but if you went to KU or if he likes to always draw basketball players, I'm guessing not. But he's like, hey, I want to do something to acknowledge this, and I'm enjoying watching this game, and so I want to celebrate it through this medium. So it's just kind of fun when things happen, what sort of comes out of it in terms of what we can sell in our stores and other avenues to support local. This is super fun. We don't have a lot of these types of things in our stores, but it is a build your own Western auto sign kit. And so it's all laser cut. Decoy Lab, she lives up north, and she makes little clocks that are shaped like animals. This is always a hot seller for us because you build it, you glue it, and then you paint it, and then you kind of have your own take on one of Kansas City's famous icons. And then, of course, kind of everything in between. So we work with Hammer Press, who's been doing letterpress since the early 90s. You can find a Hammer Press card across the country, which is they're just an amazing Kansas City brand for that reason. Stephen Dragon Art is a newer artist we've been working with. He's a former architect and has recently stopped being an architect and is doing art full time. So kind of one of a success story that we like to celebrate. So this is one of two of his smaller versions of his larger prints. Just another style. So people, obviously, this is Katie Molden Designs. She actually does a lot of custom home paintings. That's kind of her specialty. So you go online, send a picture of your house, and she'll do it in this kind of aesthetic. But this, of course, is a take on one of our famous stadiums. Another fun thing, a lot of our products are Kansas City themed and based, but again, Woodworks makes a cute little solar system. So I don't know if Pluto's in there or not. I'm not going to weigh in on that controversy. Okay. And then things celebrating different neighborhoods. So another Sandlot Goods product, just the pennant, celebrating the Hyde Park neighborhood, which we're very close to. So I bring up some of those things just to show you the variety of different folks that we work with. Everything from Kansas City's favorite barbecue sauce, Kansas City's favorite t-shirts, and everywhere in between. If we think we can sell it and there's a demand for it, we're going to try to put it in our stores. And why we do that is because we want to support local art and local goods and see those individuals and businesses continue to thrive within and even beyond Kansas City. Our dream goal, as some of our folks are getting to, is that they would be found in multiple different markets across the company. So another success story I like to share is a candle company called Untamed Supply. They just make really great candles based out of Liberty, Missouri. And when we started working with Untamed 3 years ago, we were their first wholesale purchase. So they had never sold a candle to another retailer before. They were just doing shows and pop-ups. We worked with them to help them elevate their packaging and their branding to know that, hey, if you're going to sell this candle alongside a $30 candle, how can we make this compete with each other within our own store? Since that time, since we made the first wholesale purchase, you can now buy their candle in 40 out of 50 states right now. So it's just amazing that they've been able to grow so quickly and kind of got their start here with us. So that's ultimately what we're all about. The other thing that we do very intently at Maiden Kc is we look at where we are purchasing all things to run our business. So back in 2017, we did a financial audit on all of our purchases as a company. And we looked at our suppliers for everything from towels to cleaning supplies to paper to all that sort of stuff. And we found that 90 cents on the dollar that was spent in our stores was actually going back into the local economy. And so it's something that's pretty unique to us, unique to our business model, to Maiden Kc, but something that we're extremely proud of and talk about all the time. And so the reason why that's so important is that if you were to shop at, say, a locally owned we'll say clothing boutique. And it was a great clothing boutique, but they source clothes from all across the country, from all sorts of different designers. Typically what you'd find is if you spend $100 there, 60 would stay in the local economy. So going back to that shop owner, going back to that shop owner's employees, other sort of expenses and things like that. But because they're buying most of their products from outside of Kansas City, a good portion is going outside of the economy. Makes the local economy make sense. If you are to shop at a store like a Target or Walmart, you're looking at significantly less amount of dollars staying in the local economy. Typically $30 to $40 out of the 100 spent is staying, going to local landlords, the employees again who live in the area, and so on and so forth. If you were to spend $100 on Amazon and you buy $100 worth of goods on Amazon, how many of those dollars stay in Kansas City? Anybody have a guess? It'd be like $1. And it's typically going to the delivery driver who's bringing that to your door. And so if you imagine the impact on that whole spectrum from $90 staying in when you shop with us to 60, 30, 40, so on going down, it really makes a big difference. And we don't like to say, shopping on Amazon is bad. I shop on Amazon. We buy things on Amazon when we need to for our business. But if we start to tweak and change where we purchase certain things, whether it is gifts and art and local goods and fun things, that has a meaningful impact. It goes back to your neighbors' pockets. It supports the economy. All the artists and makers we work with, we consider them, friends and family. We run into them on a day-to-day basis, and we want to see them thrive. And that has to come through Kansas City and deciding to change their habits. Our hope for Maiden Kc and our hope for what we do is, as we continue to grow and expand, we want to move beyond just from gift retail to really focusing on the importance of creating a robust local economy. And that comes through challenging large businesses to tweak where they're purchasing from. So for example, if there's a H&R Block downtown headquarter, they have, they're a national, multinational company providing tax services. If they were to, for example, this is not anything I know they do or don't do, but let's assume that they have a full office back, post-pandemic, and everyone's working there, and they have office coffee that they buy from Folgers. We'll pick on Folgers for a second. I have no idea how much they would buy from Folgers, but if Folgers lost that account, I don't think Folgers would lose any sleep at night for that, or even know one light on and off. Then if they decided, hey, we're not going to buy Folgers, but we're going to buy Thou Mayest coffee. We're going to buy from Bo Nelson at Thou Mayest, and we're going to make all of our office coffee locally sourced. That all of a sudden, while it doesn't mean much to Folgers to lose that account, it means the world to that company to add that account. And that all of a sudden changes the way Bo operates. You'd probably have to hire another person just to provide coffee for that one office building. That gets them thinking about, that gets then all of the employees at H&R Block who are drinking Thou Mayest coffee, they're going to start to maybe go check out the actual coffee shops, maybe buy that coffee for their homes. And that's just one small example. If we were to do something like that on a scale across all sorts of businesses, large and small, and all sorts of consumers across Kansas City, then all of a sudden we have created this really robust local economy that makes Kansas City unique, that allows us to be more connected between our dollars, what we give, and who we're giving them to, and why we're buying what we're buying. And I think really creates what we would hope to do down the road is a successful model for what a local economy can do for other cities. There are not a lot of other places like Maiden Kc across the country. So if you go to St. Louis, if you go to Cincinnati, if you go to Nashville, you will find similar type shops. They might be called a different name. They might have other non-local goods mixed in with local goods, but they're not doing it on the scale that we've attempted and are trying to do it in Kansas City. And if we can do it in Kansas City, we can do it in other places, big and small. And that would be kind of our hope for the future, is that more cities, more businesses think about how they can support the local economy. We've seen more than ever in the last couple of years as a result of the pandemic that the importance of supporting your neighbors with your dollars matters. When restaurants started to close and things started to kind of reopen, there was a rush to support your local restaurant in a way that there wasn't the same rush to support your local McDonald's, because they were going to be fine throughout the pandemic. But that restaurant around the corner that you love was 2 weeks go by, they could be gone. And I think we really understood I think we saw in real time that if we don't make decisions with our money for things that we care about, they will go away. And that's true for nonprofit organizations. That's true for businesses, big and small. That's true for all the economic decisions that we make, big or small. We recently had a really great opportunity where an organization from the Washington, D.C. area called Maiden Kc. They had a store similar to ours. They had 2 in DC, and then they had kind of like Maiden Virginia, kind of in the surrounding DC metropolitan area. They flew out to Kansas City to visit us because they were like, what is going on in Kansas City? Like, I hear about Kansas City on the news sometimes, but it's like mostly about sports. And they go to our website, how does this company have like 15 different locations in Kansas City, and we have 2 in DC, and so on and so forth. And so we sat down with them for a day, towards some of our stores, and just kind of shared different ideas. And I think it really came down to what's so great about Kansas City is that I think we understand, or started to understand, that we are a growing city, but we're still a small, small enough that we feel connected to each other. And that gets lost, I think, in a bigger metropolitan area. Nothing wrong with big metropolitan areas, but it makes it some harder barriers to grow a business in some ways than that, and a little bit more challenging to stay connected to who you're the business term, the suppliers, the vendors, we call them artists, makers, and family. A little more challenging to stay connected to those individuals. So it was really awesome to sit down and share, because they kind of looked up and they're like, well, if they could do that over here, surely in Washington, D.C., we should add more local art, more local goods, get some more momentum around shopping local, and the impacts there would be even greater. So that's enough about Maiden Kc. Take a breath. Well, thank you so much for listening. I'd love to take any questions that you have about our company, and about the folks we work with, and so on and so forth. So,
Keith, we're so proud of you. Thank you.
I have no idea what time it is. I was just going, and sorry.
It's 10:27.
Awesome.
Oh,
Thanks.
I can have kind of a two-part question. So how do creators get in contact with you or your team? And how often do you mention the people you're referring to? How often do you go through those?
Yeah, great. Both great questions. So currently right now we work with about 250 different companies. Again, everywhere from someone who has one print to Jack Stack barbecue sauce and their entire, canning line. So we runs the gamut. We have an online application on our website, on our homepage. You can scroll down to the bottom, it'll say vendor application. Those actually still go directly to me, and then I pass them on to my team, and we kind of go back and forth on, okay, is this a product that we're missing in our stores? Like, do we not even have anything like this? That's always important to us to have. We want to have something for everybody. Is it a product that have they been around for a while? Can I, if I place an order for 300 or whatever they're doing, is that going to freak them out, or are they going to be able to handle it? So we kind of weigh some of that, and not if that freaks them out, doesn't mean we won't work with them, but we'll work with them in a different way, like maybe through a pop-up shop or start small, or just kind of get a sense for how they operate. And we're doing that constantly. So we probably get about 5 to 7 applications a week for different products. We turn it off here in about 2 more weeks, just because holiday season, and it's hard to bring someone new on and ramp up, and we've already kind of committed to what we need to buy for the rest of the year. But then we turn it back on in January, and like to bring on new products in the late winter and spring. So
is there a particular time of year that you would suggest if someone were to be in the middle of kind of accumulating their work and building their whole process? Is there a certain time of year that you suggest that they kind of have everything done and sent to you, to where it's not like right before Christmas?
The January, February is great, and then all through June. So kind of the first half of the year is a good opportunity. And what happens then is, so get the application. It has some questions, like basic questions: website, are you selling to other stores, how long you've been in business, so on and so forth. Send some pictures, line sheet or whatever, and then after that we always sit down and meet together. So we want to start to build those relationships. Why you do what you do. So are you wanting to do this part-time, or you want to do this full-time? Is your goal to grow beyond Kansas City and kind of learn that, and also hopefully learn where some of the pain points are? Having worked with some artists the last couple of years, we have a lot of opportunity to connect people of like, oh, how does so-and-so do this? Or how, who's a good person to go to for a label or for branding or things like that, and try to help elevate everybody. So that's part of the process as well.
You had mentioned a business scale. What is that complete projection business scale?
Oh yeah, good question. So I think if I understand your question correctly, so we have right now 8 different retail locations for Maiden Kc where you can buy local goods from all the things we described and more. And then we have a handful of coffee shops that are all locally sourced coffee syrups, pastries, et cetera, that have some local goods mixed in. So we have over 15 different locations and concepts under what we do at Maiden Kc. Our hope is that for the first time ever, we have a 3 to 5 year plan. We want to add 2 more big marketplaces. So one way out south, one way up north, and one way out south. We're going to be in the new single terminal KCI airport coming up this spring. And then we want to add 2 more kind of smaller neighborhood shops like we have up here on the corner of 31st and Oak. So we have our site set on about 4 to 5 more locations, and that'll be our kind of scale for how much we want to grow in Kansas City. Yeah.
Is there a future for you in being kind of best in class, best in service for business practices, business models to scale local communities? Or something
that would be part. Yeah, I think that would be part of the. I don't know if there is a. There's different like environmental certifications for businesses and different classes there that you can apply for. And I don't think that, to my knowledge, there's one for like local, but we want to kind of create that. Whether that is something we simply create out of thin air and we start going to like other big business and award them with, hey, you're the most Maiden Kc, you get this award because your bottom line goes to local companies and X amount or something, create some sort of certification. I think they love a nice thing to hang on the wall. Yeah. So that would be part of that longer term of how do we get bigger corporations to think locally and not just always look to, well, where's the cheapest I can get this coffee or these paper towels or whatever that may be. Yeah.
Have you experienced, I think a lot of people's hold up in the realm of like, can I source everything locally? It's like their feedback that the cost is going to be exorbitant compared to ordering and bulk buying Amazon. Are you experiencing that? Or do you feel like if you start from the beginning investing in this, you just get used to it?
You kind of just get used to it. There are certain things that even whether we're talking about practical things or things that are part of a product that people make that you just can't source locally. From there we look regionally, then we look made in the USA, then we kind of go beyond. Yes, it's more expensive, but we found it's worth the hats are a good example of that. Those hats, I think both of those are retailing between $40 and $50, where you can buy a similar type hat for significantly less. That's maybe manufactured in China or somewhere else, and maybe embroidered here in Kansas City. So it kind of starts and ends in different parts, which is totally fine. We work with a lot of folks in that realm, but there's that one extra step that we think makes all the difference. So yeah. A super small example, we work with a lot of designers that do like stickers, and I brought some stickers for y'all if you want to grab some. And there's these massive companies online who do bulk stickers, right? There's like Sticker Robots one, Sticker Mules another one. There's a company out in Olathe called Staus that makes stickers. So we have said, hey, we're going to order all of our in-house stickers from Staus. If a company comes to me and says, hey, I want to do this on a sticker, will that sell in your store? I'll say yes, but you got to order it from Staus. So we're trying to have some of those more conversations where it's more intentional, like, yes, you're a local owned business and you're a local designer, and you could print this from wherever. And we do sell some of those things in our stores, but hey, let's now that we have kind of scale and a little bit of leverage, let's try to pivot even our own makers of like, hey, what's one step in your process that you can convert to local that goes from there.
Is there anything on your website that can direct people, like if they needed help from a print shop or something facilitated with their work that would kind of direct them to suggested direction?
No, yeah, unfortunately we don't. Yeah, but that's something like that should exist in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's us.
Connecting different people to different resources of like, yeah, I imagine just because you get those questions all the time of, yeah, who's a good person to go to for this or that, and yeah, that's great. Yeah.
You had mentioned, airport.
Uh-huh.
Is airport going to be a design area thought for the business?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, what is that, in 26? It's gonna have, the soccer.
The World Cup. Yeah. Yeah.
That one there is gonna be the one. If anybody, I've been looking around at different places to put business. And because that right there is gonna, anybody who's ready for that, the reward is gonna be many.
We'll see. Well, the city's certainly hoping for it, but what we're excited about for the airport is one, it's a new airport, but for us having a store in there, we are excited for what it has the potential to do for the brands that we work with. So for example, Andre's chocolates, right? So typically right now, if you were to buy Andre's chocolates and you're visiting from out of town, you can get them at our store, you can go down to their store, but between the time you purchase that chocolate and the time you leave Kansas City, so many things have happened in your life. You've checked out of your hotel, maybe you went out to eat, you checked into the airport, and maybe you've forgotten all about your great experience at Andre's. But what is going to be fun at the airport is you'll get a shop after you pass through security. So it'll be that kind of the last touch that you have and make it a positive memory. But then with that, if you're sitting there at the airport and you enjoy eating your Andre's caramels, you maybe then, oh, this is really good. They stay in your pocket. You get back to Chicago, wherever, you go online, check them out, like what it will do for these local brands on a national scale. Hopefully they find, clusters, fan bases all over the country, and that they get repeat customers that have nothing to do with Maiden Kc, except that they found it in our store. And then from that point on, they're ordering Andre's chocolates, every Valentine's, every holiday. With the World Cup, it's going to be crazy. The only thing that I've heard that really excites me about it is that they say every game has the economic impact of hosting one Super Bowl, and Kansas City is projected to host at least 3 to 4 games out of not the whole World Cup, but 3 to 4 games within that World Cup. Like, and that's just like where are those people going to go? How they're going to travel around? But we've never hosted a Super Bowl before here, but we've seen what it's like when the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, and just how excited people get. Having all those people in town, exploring Kansas City for the first time, meeting Kansas City artists for the first time. They say that the economic impact is that large per single game, and we're supposed to have 3 or 4 of those, which is kind of mind-blowing.
It'd be a great launching pad, because Kansas City being middle America.
Yeah.
If you got a product that's a reaching power, like to the East Coast and to the West Coast, all they have to do, like the customer, big, is to get exposure, like you were mentioning with chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate has become really competitive out there now,
And expensive. Yeah.
well, not everything.
Oh.
Now there is a great chocolate, turtle pecan caramel chocolate is the cookie drop. Now, even being that, you got 2 choices. You got dark and you got regular. Well, for some reason, the stores that carry it are pushing the average, the regular chocolate, instead of pushing that dark. That dark is, it's a different world. When you have that dark, I have fallen asleep so hard. I could not tell, and usually I have to sleep very light. That dark chocolate took my antenna. When I came back.
Sounds dangerous.
I'll tell you, when I came back, I went back and bought 3 boxes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, yeah.
So when you're looking at vendor applications, what really sets somebody apart from somebody else, and or what are do you have a specific aesthetic that you're holding to or looking for, or are you looking for really diverse?
So yeah, that's a good question. It's almost a case by case because we'll get some things. So a lot of the artists that we work with, they do something Kansas City specific, but that's not what they necessarily love to do, but they do it to get into the market or to get in our stores, to get the connection. And then everything else they make, whether it's, whatever it is, doesn't fit in our stores. And it doesn't fit in our stores because of what it is. That's kind of where the supporting artist / business they kind of diverge a little bit, where we cater to our customer too. And we haven't found that we can change our customer's mind very often, right? So if they're coming looking for, I'm trying to think of an example of things. So books is an example. So we carry a handful of books in our stores, mostly local history, local books, local children's books around Kansas City themed things. We've carried probably about 15 different books that are by local authors in variety of categories, from graphic novels to mystery to just a kid's book about mental health. And unfortunately, they don't sell, they don't move, because that's just not what our customer is coming to find. They can find those things, or at least I think they think they can find those things at other places. They have their other place to go for books, but not their place to go for Kansas City books. There's a place where they can get more abstract art that they have, but how to find that Kansas City thing they're looking for, that's what they come to us for. So it's a little give and take. With I will say one more thing to that is that we think that for the health and longevity of not only our business, but also for the Kansas City local community and local artist community, we need to do a better job of getting people to buy art that is just locally made, whether or not it says Kansas City or not. Does that make sense? Because that's going to get not tired, but there's a limit to that. And we really want people to support local, almost because it's high quality and it's good and they like it. And that goes everything from actual art you're going to hang to apparel that you wear. A lot of companies we work with they make non-KC branded apparel, but it just doesn't sell in our stores because that opportunity is infinite for our customers to find that everywhere. Any sort of other clothing store, they can find that. But I think it'd be really awesome if people are like, oh, I really like this, whatever, this portrait of a flower, just because it's by a local artist. That's a bad example, but just because it looks cool to buy a local artist. I think our name does a little bit of a disservice to that. I'm just expecting more KC things in our store. So one of the ways we have tried to overcome that in the past, or working towards, is we do a lot of pop-ups with artists, and we'll say, hey, come to our store, have your KC line, but have all your other stuff, because I don't know if our customers will respond to that well or not. And it kind of puts a little bit of the risk back on them. And we get to learn from that experience where, hey, use our customer traffic at our busy plaza store on a Saturday, and let's see if we can sell, XYZ products. And sometimes we come back pleasantly surprised. Sometimes they say, hey, I only sold my KC things, and that's fine. So it's a little bit of give and take back and forth. And perhaps down the road, there's an opportunity where we are doing what we do, but we call it something different. It's not called Maiden Kc, but it's called something different. And it's bringing in all these other different products that just our customers don't know they want yet. That kind of makes sense. Like, yeah.
I have create candles and users.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to her if she's kind of discouraged by you already have a candle? Do you have?
Yeah.
How does she submit if you can't? Does she send in the actual item?
Yes. Yeah. If it's often food-based or thing like that, we always ask for samples as part of that back and forth on the vendor application. A lot of people make candles, it's tough. So that's where like branding and packaging is actually like super important. And then also getting in front of the customers. So when we host a lot of pop-ups at our stores, a lot of, and those are often food-based products, but when they go into the space of like candles and diffusers, when the customer gets the opportunity to meet the person behind and hears them talk about why they chose this essential oil versus that, and why they use soy instead of this and all that stuff, then that changes things, and you create a lifelong customer in that interaction. So that, in that particular case, we would talk about, hey, how's your packaging? Because I'll others say, I'll pull out a candle, like this is going to sit next on the shelf between this other candle, and there's only so many candles we can sell. So what is different about your candle? And that could be the ingredients, could be the scents, could even be just the name. People just, they buy candles because they look good on their tabletop or on their nightstand or whatever. Almost all candles smell good. And there are some bad candles out there. But for the most part, and that's we talk about candles a lot because they're one of those things where if you find one you love, you're going to buy it again and again, and you create that habit of shopping local. At the same time, you can go across the Target and get a $5 candle that's 3 times as big as the $20 candles we sell in our stores. But that's one of those things like, man, why are people buying these candles? Well, they like them because they're high quality, they look good on the shelves, they're locally made. And that's kind of a test proof for like, if we can do this when they have an option that's literally like 300% cheaper.
Yeah.
What else, what are the other habits we can change and create and whatnot? And candles are one of those fun things you gift, but you buy for yourself. And so you're often buying more than one at the same time. And people love to share their favorite things. So, yeah.
Thank you for your time and energy.
Oh, yeah. One last question. That's great. Yeah.